on the Outside. It has been a while since we've done one of these, and it wouldn't be a good show without the Marvel Man himself.
Brad Learman.
What's up, buddy?
Not much, dude.
So I think you've been following what happened during San Diego Comic-Con, have you not?
I've been keeping track of a few things here and there.
Well, you know, one of those big old announcements that they had there was about a little thing called Marvel What If. So I think it would be a great episode for us to do where we just kind of riff on what ifs should be what ifed when they bring the show out to us. So yeah, for you guys who don't know, Underwear on the Outside is just our take on just things that are kind of commonplace in pop culture and nerd culture, and we just kind of riff on them and just have a good time with new news announcements and what we think about what's going on. So let's get right into it. So what did you think of the Phase 4? Does it feel like something that you're even excited about? Did they hit the mark or miss it?
So I'm a little... I wouldn't say I'm concerned about the Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious as to what they actually do with it. I know Taskmaster might have been teased as well.
Did you see the images of Taskmaster with the blue and the... I don't know. He looked like a Power Ranger. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of looks the same way in the Marvel's Avengers video game that's coming out next year, I think.
I think he looks a little better there. Yeah.
I mean, in the same vein, but in any case, Shang-Chi, I'm kind of down for.
Yeah.
I like martial arts movies. If anybody
of course,
keeping tabs on that.
If there's one thing you like as much, if not more than Marvel, it's kung fu movies for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For those who don't know, Brad loves his kung fu.
I would say kung fu and sci-fi in general, but
yeah, you do like sci-fi. Yeah, that's true.
Let's see, of all the other movies, let's see. Doctor Strange 2 is going to be cool.
I was going to say, yeah, Doctor Strange sounds like my favorite, especially because it kind of ties a little bit into all this because it gets otherworldly in a sense. I mean, I don't know how much he's going to actually enter the multiverse, if he's going to walk out and, Captain America is going to be alive or something like that. But I think Doctor Strange is going to be cool too. Because we've got like Black Widow, like you mentioned, we've got Shang-Chi, we've got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, Eternals, WandaVision, Loki, Thor, Love and Thunder, which I still love that title and that graphic. And then Hawkeye is getting his own series too with his daughter. And then of course, What If? So, I mean, which of those stands out to you the most?
Honestly, I kind of like the tease of Blade.
Oh, yeah, and Blade, of course, too, which they've said is Phase 5.
Yeah, unfortunately. I think it's probably going to go alongside probably like their supposed Avengers, the Fantastic Four and the X-Men that they have in the works as well.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of theories on Phase 5. I think it's going to kick off the start of almost a rebirth of sorts where they're just going to go kind of back to basics. What's old is new again. Because if you think about it, when they set the whole universe up, or even before they set the universe up, I should say, we're talking late 90s. What were the ones that really kicked things off for Marvel? They had Spider-Man, they had the X-Men, they had Blade, and they had Fantastic Four. Who knows if we'll ever get another Hulk movie or if we'll get another Daredevil movie, but really those were the ones that started things in a big way for them. So it makes sense that, it would be like a rebirth for them. Then you throw in like Guardians and all that stuff too along the way, because I guess Guardians will probably figure into Phase 5. But, does What If stand out to you in a big way, or is that kind of more like second and third tier in your expectations?
It's a cool concept.
Oh, for sure.
From a standpoint of what they actually decide to do with it is a little bit to be seen.
Right.
I know there are some clues in the actual logo itself as to what they might be doing.
Yeah, someone pointed out like a vampire picture, which I'm not exactly sure what that one would be, because there's like one I vaguely remember, because I have like 30 or 40 of the What If issues here in my little office. But there's one like Wolverine was, what if he became the Lord of Vampires, So I don't think it's going to be that one, but there's so many good things that they could do with the What If. Like of the issues, how many have you read that are actually What If?
Oh God. I honestly can't say that I have.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, I thought you did, Mr. Marvel. All right. Okay, no big deal. So, but you're familiar with him though, because I know I've shown you like the ones like What If Beast and Thing continue to mutate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff. So. Yeah. I will go off comics, if nothing else, and then you can kind of do the speculation based on what exists in the Marvel Universe or what you'd even like to see in the Marvel Universe, and we'll just kind of go from there. So let's kind of get this ball rolling, because I think, much like yourself, we're both very excited to see where Phase 4 goes. But with, the TV format, I mean, I guess we don't totally know. I think it'll probably be like 10 to 15 episodes for what they do with What If, but of that, I mean, they have so many great actors coming back or returning to the franchise that, they have to have something amazing. But I think we should just have fun with it, honestly. Like, not even go with the actors that they have. Just who would you like to see back, and what would you like to see them doing? So I'll start with you on this one.
Okay, so if we're going based off the MCU,
yeah,
and what's already established. And what I would really like to see is if Steve Rogers was turned into Ghost Rider.
Okay. And what would you kind of propose out of all that? Like, how would you see that going?
Okay, so the whole thing of the Captain America: The First Avenger is he's trying to like get into the army, get into the war, and do his part.
Yeah.
So, and then I think the scientist just kind of shows up at the right time and kind of picks him.
Okay.
Like, what happens if the doctor is like busy with somebody else, and then Steve Rogers just gets shooed away?
Oh, really? Okay.
His sixth attempt.
Okay. Yes.
And
six times the charm.
Yeah, and then he just kind of finally breaks.
Okay.
He never gets to develop into the Steve Rogers that we all know in the comics and in the MCU.
So then, does he like fall away and become Ghost Rider, or how does that work?
No, because what he wants to do is he'll do anything to get into the army.
Oh,
so what he does is he makes a deal with the devil.
Gotcha.
And he lets it happen, and then Bucky Barnes gets killed.
Oh, all right.
And then basically devil comes to pay up or to collect, and then he makes him his Ghost Rider.
Yeah, okay. I like this. This is good. So how much of would he still kind of be a do-gooder at heart, or would he
this would probably go down more of a darker path for
Steve
Rogers.
I mean, you kind of have to, right? With him being yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's more so like he sort of understands that what he did was kind of evil.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like the current iterations of the Ghost Riders. They kind of tiptoe between. They're not evil, but they're kind of like the chaotic good characters.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this all compounds into other areas. Peggy Carter, maybe he can't get involved with her, or maybe she gets killed in the process of him.
I mean, that would be tragic.
Yes. Well, I mean, the entire storyline of most of the Ghost Riders are pretty tragic.
All right, I'm with you on that one. Okay. You know what that actually kind of reminds me of? There was one where it was like, what if Captain America had formed the Avengers instead of, I want to say it was, this is bad on my part.
Was it Ant-Man that
I think it was Hank Pym, who did. Technically, because I think that they needed to come together, all that. Anyways, so in the what if of Captain America forming the Avengers, there's like this version of, I think it's Tony Stark or War Machine, that's actually the Punisher. So when you said that, I was kind of mixing them together, because he has like, I want to say it was like Yeti or something like that, or one of those like abominable creatures is one of them, instead of like the Hulk. Namor is part of the team with like this big long beard. Ant-Man, I believe, is Giant Man. And then there's that Punisher like Iron Man or War Machine character. So that's what I thought of immediately when you said that. So.
Oh, nice. What
For
about
my
you?
for
What are your
myself,
some ideas?
I've been thinking about a million of these since we were talking about this behind the scenes. But I think one of the ones I would really like to see would be something like, oh, man, I would go. What if Captain Marvel did not die? I would love to see it. And here's why I say it. And it's not because I know there's a million people like, oh, you just don't want to see Captain Marvel. First of all, I actually like Captain Marvel as a character. I do still have some of the problems with that movie and how it was executed and, you know, making her kind of feel overpowered and all that stuff. But I do like the Captain Marvel character, whether it's male, female, etc. I like the idea of like, what if we had the regular original Captain Marvel? The only problem though I see with it though, especially the more I think about it, is we didn't really have a Captain Marvel that existed in the MCU, so you would have to kind of re-explain that and all that stuff. I think according to the movie, they expressed that it was Annette Bening who was playing Captain Marvel. So, I mean, maybe they give Annette Bening some superpowers, which I'm still cool with that too, because, I mean, she was probably one of my favorite parts of that movie. So, whether it's classic Captain Marvel, or if they go, you know, blonde locks and the red and blue suit, I'm still fine with it either way. Does that make you more excited, the possibility of the original Captain Marvel, or would you go with a pass on that one?
I would sort of pass. That character in the movie is like nothing.
Yeah,
like she is.
That's fair. Okay, give me another one from you.
Let's see. What if Eddie Brock and Peter Parker had traded places with? So let's say the Venom symbiote had never left Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And Eddie Brock instead like got bit by some other spider.
Yeah.
And so Eddie Brock becomes some different version of Spider-Man, and then Peter Parker is Venom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that. Yeah, because I guess Peter would become what he was when he had the black suit, but even more venomized, which I dig that. I wonder how good guy. Did you say Eddie or Flash? Okay, you said Eddie. How good guy Eddie would play out. I mean, how do you see his future as that character going? Does he take on all the same kind of characteristics that Peter does, or does he carve out his own path?
I would say he carves his own path.
Okay.
Well, like Eddie Brock wouldn't have the resentment to Peter Parker for all of the bad things that happened to him.
But would Peter have the resentment towards Eddie?
That's a good question.
Yeah, right?
Maybe Peter is pissed that the symbiote is stuck to him and not Brock. Trying to think of what else. Maybe Brock and I think Brock has a relationship with I can't remember what her name is. It's
with who?
It's
Eddie's wife?
Yeah,
in the movie and in the comics. I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think she later turns into Black Cat or something like that.
No, she becomes She-Venom.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, they even teased it in the movie. Remember?
Oh! I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about mainly the comics.
Well, I mean, it's the same person.
Yeah. It's God. What is her name?
I think it's like Anne Wang or something like that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That can't be right.
Yeah, Anne. Yeah, I even just double checked it for you. It's Anne.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to you were saying.
Oh gosh. So yeah. Eddie Brock would become Spider-Man.
Right.
I'd be interested to see like he doesn't have any resentment. He can, somewhat successfally have a relationship with Anna Wang.
No. ANNEWEYING. Anne Wang. Not Wang.
Anne Wang.
Yeah, I know that's a hard thing when you're talking like this with Skype and all that. Yeah.
So he can have, I guess, sort of a similar life that Parker, I guess, What If had.
Yeah.
But I guess Eddie Brock would have like a different perspective, sort of. He's already kind of like a big guy, and then if he gets bit by the spider, like he's already sort of a pretty capable individual. So
yeah, I want to tell you something that's really funny because again, you not knowing all of the what ifs that came before, there actually is a Marvel. I think it's a number 1 actually. It's what if Flash Thompson became Spider-Man.
Interesting.
Did you know that? Okay.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just kind of interesting because I forget how that one plays out, but it's kind of like just how Flash would deal with being Peter. So, yeah, they even did another one about it was like what if Spider-Man was just someone else. I think it was like John Jameson, Betty Brant became Spider-Girl, I think. And then they kind of told the Flash Thompson story. So basically, like, if any of these 3 people got bit by the spider, how would they react to being that character? So, yeah, kind of interesting. It's interesting that you kind of got very close to that. And I think a lot of people, especially the ones that are listening to this, even if you haven't read any of them, I think we all have kind of these what ifs that play close to something that have existed already in the comics. So, I'm trying to think of another good one for myself because, like I told you before we got on here, there's a great one that's what if the original Marvel bullpen had become the Fantastic Four. So it's like if they made Mr. Fantastic or Stan Lee had become Mr. Fantastic, Jack Kirby was the Thing, et cetera, et cetera. And I just the imagery of that is just perfect for me. There's one too that's like, what if the Silver Surfer had the Infinity Gauntlet and what he would do with it? But I think we're not that far into the MCU yet. Actually, you know what I think would be a really good one that I'd bring up is what if other Marvel universes existed in the MCU? So like you bring back Eric Bana, who played Hulk, and then have him do an interaction with like Mark Ruffalo, or even bring back fucking Norton and have him.
Oh,
yeah.
I doubt that'll ever happen.
I mean, I know it wouldn't happen, but I'm just saying, like, if you had the ability to do a what if and you just go, I mean, it's Hulk v Hulk or something like that, or just have them fight side by side, I think you could really tell some interesting stuff. You could even bring back Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire and do a Spider-Man thing, because, I mean, the whole Into the Spider-Verse concept is so hot right now. Everyone wants to see them call back to the former stuff in some fashion. So I would do maybe a what if with some Spider-Man stuff, like what if Andrew Garfield had not lost his job, you know, something like that.
Oh, jeez.
What would you do? You got another one?
Oh gosh, I was thinking. Let's see. It's off the top of my head.
I'll give you a fun one that goes back to your Ghost Rider while you're thinking of one. Okay. Speaking of the X-Men and you talking about Ghost Rider, there's a what if Professor Xavier had become Ghost Rider.
Ugh.
The image, I gotta send you the image. It's him doing the telepathic thing, but he's got the skull. It's hilarious to look at. Yeah.
I guarantee you there's probably a what if already done of it. But what if Xavier and Magneto had swapped places?
Yeah, I mean they have very different origins.
What if Magneto, instead of being the hot-headed person that went through World War II concentration camp?
Okay.
Instead of trying to take vengeance out, he actually kind of finds, I guess something bigger to live for, and then he actually founds the school for
like their motivations essentially change.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, the only thing.
And then Xavier gets driven mad by his telepathy.
Yeah, the only thing I kind of see an issue with that, and maybe it's just how you narrate and tell that story, but wouldn't you just make them the same person? That's the only thing that I am kind of torn on, because like, I mean, unless you describe like their upbringing being relatively the same and then you swap their tragedies.
I suppose you'd have to change their upbringing just a little bit.
Yeah. You know what I would do,
'Cause, like,
just to
you know what'd
piggyback
be
on yours? Yeah,
terrifying?
go ahead.
If Xavier learned how to just control an entire army with his mind.
Well, I'm sure he's done that in the comics at some point. He's gone pretty
Probably.
psychotic, yeah. You know what? Actually, what I would do, just to piggyback off yours just a little bit, is to flip him and his brother, who becomes Juggernaut, like flip their upbringings, and see how their lives would have turned out. Yeah, I mean, does he still, develop his mutant powers? I mean, if you get Juggernaut like Xavier, but he's like built like a tank and he's got the telepathy, I mean, how?
Well, I mean, that would mean that Xavier gets the power of the Sidorak as well.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, I mean, he goes through those. I mean, as a mutant, he would probably have to go through those experiences, or maybe he has like a Captain America kind of experience where he's this scrawny guy and then he gets built up and jacked like that. And what does he do with his powers? Him being more of a noble guy. Because I don't think the gem makes him crazy. I think it just enhances what was already there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, does his brother Kane, does he end up becoming a mutant in his own right without the enhancement of the gem? Like, you could play a whole different direction with that story. I would love to see that. But I like yours, getting Magneto and Charles to switch. Does that change their perspective on humanity if you put them in different situations? That could totally work. Another X-Men one I should pepper in here too. There was actually one, what if the all new, all different X-Men had never existed? So yeah, when they start to introduce like, Nightcrawler and, what was it? I always want to say the Mortal Kombat character. Is it Nightwolf or Nightwolf is Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
It's Thunderbird, right?
Talking about Angel?
No. Thunderbird, the Native American mutant that they added in the all new, all different.
The only Native American X-Men I know is Forge. That's it.
Oh, no, never mind. But yeah, like Storm, Colossus, Wolverine, that whole group that emerged after the first classic kind of, taking a back seat. So yeah, in that one, they basically move Havoc, Cyclops, Angel, Marvel Girl, I think it's Beast, and then
Kitty Pryde.
No, who's with the green hair? I want to say Polaris. I think
hair.
Yeah, Polaris. Yeah, I think it's Polaris. Anyways, but yeah, the point is it creates a whole different team because those ones had never joined their team. I like another one, and this is one I probably would actually choose, is what if Spider-Man had rescued Gwen Stacy? Either that or kind of another thing with Spider-Man and his relationships, because I know in our Spider-Man Reacts to Far From Home, we talked about the relationship he has with MJ. I want to see him have romantic partnerships with other people before he gets to MJ, because MJ, no pun intended, is kind of like the end game in terms of his relationship. Like his true love at the end of the day is Mary Jane, but there's such a great story with Gwen Stacy, as tragic as it is, that's one of the reasons I love Amazing Spider-Man 2. For all of its flaws, I felt something so much more in the moment when they actually decided to, again, no pun intended, pull that trigger and just end her life in that moment, because it was so close to the comics. And like, I didn't think they would actually do it, but like his relationship with her, especially because in real life it was Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone, you could just feel their connection. So when she dies, you just like, your heart just goes out to him in that moment. You're like, you have that kind of moment where you're like, yeah, it really gets you. And I would love to see him have a relationship that's stronger with her, whether it's in the movies or whatever, or even just in this TV format, or have him pursue a relationship with Felicia Hardy, which seems to be completely absent in all of the movies in live action format. And I don't understand why they can't do anything with Black Cat nowadays, but they really need to, because she's such a great character. I don't know. Do you see any flaws in that one, or would you do it differently?
I don't know. Maybe if Spider-Man was trying to save Gwen Stacy and then Spider-Man died in the process.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean that. Yeah, would be cool.
That would inevitably lead to Spider-Gwen. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I really wonder with this What If series if it's going to be more about bringing people back than letting people die, because, you know, I try not to do the whole like let's shit on Marvel kind of thing, but like they're not really fans of letting people die. So I wonder if they're going to just say like, oh, this person just never existed, or if they're actually going to say, no, this person died tragically trying to save so and so, and now it's whatever person's chance to, you know, step up to the mantle and take it on for themselves. So I am curious how they actually go with that, because you know, like even one of the what ifs was, what if Kraven had killed Spider-Man, you know, in Kraven's Last Hunt or whatever. I don't know. Do you think that would be too dark for them, or do you think they'd actually pull the trigger and do something like that?
Maybe in a comic. I don't know about animated or movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's a TV format, but yeah. Going back to your Captain America one, too, there's another one that's, what if Captain America hadn't vanished during World War II? So what if he had stayed around all through that period? I mean, I don't know if it would have been as beneficial for him to have stayed back there, because there wasn't as much going on as there was in the present day. But, you know, that's another cool one they could do.
He might have been disillusioned as much as, you know, when Hank Pym finally left S.H.I.E.L.D. when they were trying to just get his technology.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about MCU here.
Yeah. No, you're blending two worlds together, but I'm following you on that for sure. Well, what other ones come up in your head?
Oh gosh. So let's go with MCU here.
Okay.
Let's go. What if Baron Zemo was right and the Avengers were evil?
Oh, like he shone a light on them and then it caused them to become corrupt?
Yep.
Or more corrupt than they thought they were? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of like that. You know, I still have my issues with Civil War, but yeah, in that mindset of like they all kind of look at each other like Tony just lost his shit. Cap and Bucky are defeated. They're also kind of outlaws they're on the run from the law because of them not signing the Sokovia Accords. Maybe there's something to this, and all of a sudden the spotlight's on them and they're like, crap, are we actually the bad guys here? And then they just kind of like take on more. I don't want to say they start robbing banks and shit, but they just go like, maybe we don't care as much as we thought we did, or maybe we're not as good at people as we thought we were. And then they just kind of slowly degrade. I kind of like where you're going with that. That's kind of a cool concept. Who would step up to take them on? What would you set them up as?
Oh gosh. Let's see. If Baron Zemo.
Whiplash to the rescue.
Wait, who?
Oh, Whiplash. Vanko from Iron Man 2. I was just pulling out random characters. Yeah.
You could possibly get. Let's see here. You could always get Hammer Industries.
Oh yeah. I can't remember. Is he putting together AIM at any point in the series? I can't remember. It wasn't that.
I don't know. It would be an interesting idea.
Yeah.
It's basically Marvel's take on Suicide Squad.
Oh,
really?
Well, that's Thunderbolts.
Oh, yeah, that's true, Thunderbolts.
I mean, hey, if you send the Thunderbolts, actually, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, you send them in as like the answer to these fake heroes that were once deemed, you know, the real deal.
Yeah, there's like some massive corruption that the Avengers are like really just causing everything, and it's making them look like the good guys, and then the Thunderbolts come along and now the Thunderbolts are the Avengers.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the shit I love. Like the idea that you could actually have someone like, I mean, you could create a Norman Osborn character, you could do Thaddeus Ross, and you could actually have him create the Thunderbolts because he already exists in canon. So you have him come in and go like, I'm tired of these fake heroes. They don't want to sign the Accords. they're a complete mess. They're not structured. Here's my heroes. Here are my champions that will take out this threat of people who don't want to be patriotic or they don't want to be American or whatever. And then he brings in the Thunderbolts. And sure, maybe at one point they were evil, but now they represent America. And, he tries to present them as like the heroes that we really need. And that could really work. I love that idea. Marvel, if you're listening, please use that idea. Any others that you want to bring up? Because I think I have a couple more before we close this one out.
I don't really have any others that I can really think of off the top of my head.
Okay. I was thinking about it just because we just had Dark Phoenix. And then it was this one that came from the comics. It was like, what if the Phoenix had not died? Because I think a lot of people liked her as like good Phoenix, and the idea that she goes dark, there's a cool thing to be done there where it's like, she has all this power. Does she, I mean, I haven't read through the thing all the way, but like just on the base concept of if she just stuck around and she wasn't evil, what would you do with that character? Does she become like this all powerful godlike character? Does she become like the Superman of the X-Men in a sense? Like, does she seize control and like become like beyond what Professor Xavier is to them and start dishing out different kinds of orders and different sort of tactics for how the X-Men operate? Like, you could go in so many different directions with Phoenix. I mean,
oh yeah.
If you had the choice and you had given Phoenix all this power and she was still on the side of good, ideally, or maybe she goes more evil, but she didn't die, what would you do with her?
I mean, instead of just the Phoenix Force just kind of occupying her and then leaving, I would say that Jean Grey actually like harnesses the Phoenix and then she absorbs it.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Did she do anything more with it, or?
It doesn't make her a god, but it basically puts her on like the level of like of an Eternal.
Okay, cool. I actually really like that one too. Any others for you? I think at least one more from both of us before we wrap it up. Thinking about the MCU, and this could be stuff that we haven't even seen yet too. Like what if, I don't know, the Fantastic Four actually kicked off this universe instead of Tony Stark or something like that. You can go pretty much any route you want to.
What if Howard Stark actually had a daughter?
Oh, instead of Tony. Because didn't he suggest that he was going to in Infinity War or Endgame?
He said he wished it was a daughter.
Yeah, that he was hoping for one, right? Mm-hmm. Something about girls being less of a handful or something. I think that's what he said.
He didn't want his son. He didn't want his son to turn out like him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that idea. So what would you do with that story, though? Does she become Ironheart? Does she even go down the technological route that Tony does, or does she become her own character or hero, or how does that work?
I guess if that line is supposed to be correct, that if he had a daughter, it would be nothing like him. Yeah, I would go along the lines of she's nothing like him. She doesn't do any of the war profiteering with technology and weapons that Howard Stark made. She doesn't have any sort of Iron Man suit, but maybe she instead puts the Avengers together and just acts as like a main figurehead for the public.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. All right, let's go with that.
It's sort of like being Nick Fury, just not being Fury.
Yeah, that would be a cool kind of setup. Would the teams, whether they be Avengers or even S.H.I.E.L.D., would they exist the same way that they do, or would they change their lineups at all?
I would say S.H.I.E.L.D. would never exist because I guess Tony Stark female would just have the Avengers do everything. There would be no need for S.H.I.E.L.D.
I like that. That's a cool idea. Yeah, I can see that definitely working out. I think the last one I want to do before we kind of wrap this all up here, I was thinking about like, what if just the Avengers had never existed? And before people come in with like just me saying this as like a hate on it, I like the idea only on this concept of what if they just never existed, and not in the sense of like they were never created individually, but like how do you address the threats that Thanos and all of them had created if these characters had never formed together to fight against evil? Like if they're all very independent of each other, and had never really fought for a common goal, would they have actually defeated the Chitauri when they had come in? Would they have defeated Ultron on a more individual basis? Would the Earth have actually stood a chance if you had these heroes fighting individually? Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the fairly reasonable answer would be no, but I mean, they could all still be fighting towards the common enemy, but just not as a unit, not one that's actually worked together.
Or like instead of them forming like a team with all these heroes, like what if a villain came along and basically put up together a team, but they had to, kind of follow the orders of a villain?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that could totally work too. Cause I think about yeah, go ahead.
Like what if Apocalypse, instead of doing his 4 horsemen, what if he built the Avengers and then basically controlled the Avengers?
I mean, that would be a interesting blending of 2 different universes together, but I'm with you. Like, I kind of like that idea though. In the way I see it though, I would do like, if they had formed differently or it had not formed at all, maybe there'd be different pairings, different relationships between certain characters. Like maybe Stark and Cap had butted heads way earlier because they saw each other ideologically different from the very beginning. Or you could do like the fact that maybe Quicksilver never would have died because of the way that events had played out. Maybe Vision would have never come into the picture because things wouldn't have transpired the way they were. Technically, maybe even Ultron might not have ever been created too, because if you think about it, that was only because Tony and Bruce had come together the way that they did. And if the two of them were not seeing eye to eye, maybe Ultron never would have been made in that universe. And maybe that would have saved an entire threat from even happening, So it's just a very interesting thing to play with these ideas. I can't wait for the series to come out. I mean, I'm sure you're excited. I mean, based on how we've talked about everything. So what do you guys think at home? That we want to put the question out to you, because obviously we had a lot of fun throwing out all the what ifs, but what are your what ifs? What would you like to see from the Marvel Universe? Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter at the Nerd Rage Pod. Hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com. The Nerd Rage Podcast on Facebook. You can also find us on our TeePublic store, on our Patreon. Go support us there so we can do more episodes just like this one, and because I would love to do a bunch of these, honestly. You can also find us pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found. Go check out our website, thenerdragepodcast.com, and we'll talk to you guys about what ifs another time. Have a good one.